Tonight we will examine concepts that may challenge your perception of the world around you. Strange creatures, chilling tales, and the occasional conspiracy. Here on our show, we will attempt to provide you with paranormal insight. Hello and welcome back. This is part 2 of our inquiry as to why do monsters eat what they eat. Last time we tackled vampires and why they drink blood almost exclusively. This time we're going to tackle the more famous undead creatures, zombies, and we're going to ask why they eat brains. And it's interesting that up until a certain point, they were just eating everything in general. And then we come up with another answer as to why brains became the popular diet of choice for zombies. So why don't we get started, and we'll see you at the end of the show.
Before I go into that, Noah, did you want to do anything with zombies or vampires or any add-ons?
Yeah, I mean, I got a bunch of stuff, but the research kind of topic I took was more a broad overview of kind of the mythological monsters and archetypes that are found within those, because I find it really interesting, and there's a lot of similarities between them that I think is important to note about the subject. But like on zombies and all that, I know you had gone so deep into it. I just kind of like let you handle that part. So yeah, we can get into kind of what I was thinking after, if you want to go into your zombies and the relationship to vamps.
Okay.
Yeah, it works. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, cool. So all right, so zombies, I think, they kind of go to the heart of our fears when it comes to the undead. They can't be reasoned with and want nothing more than to just eat your flesh and brains. Yeah, which is interesting. So, all right, but again, why? So similarly to the vampire, as we'll see, the vampire, again, more likely draws from the tales of zombies. The undead have been a theme for people of many cultures, actually for at least the last 10,000 years.
Oh, yeah. That's true. That's
very
true.
Yeah.
Which was actually kind of a surprise to me. Not a surprise, but I didn't realize it was that long. So, graves of humans and Neanderthals both showed ritualistic borders or rock piles being placed over graves. And archaeologists and researchers have deduced this as a sign of them fearing the revenant, of course, being the more traditional word for zombie,
right.
Which is interesting and also not satisfying, because it's like maybe they're just doing it for symbolism or something. But
that's interesting you mentioned revenant, because my definition of a revenant is, and that's actually dealing with the movie I'm shooting right now, or about to shoot, is that it is the ghost of a person who is so, or feels so wronged that they actually come back with so much power that they have physical form.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and awesome.
Yeah. I mean, they're, in the kind of like DiCaprio came sick. Back. I mean, you think he was a survivor, and it turns out he wasn't,
right.
That movie by that name. And the only way to destroy a revenant is to completely destroy it. So you got to dip it in acid, throw it in lava, keep it in one place long enough to completely destroy it, which is very interesting. I find
I love that. It's also terrifying, because that's really makes it hard to kill. So
yeah, Don't wrong anybody.
Right. And it's all about mental state too. How wronged could you be? Because the guy,
Yeah.
without giving away too much, in my story, is a serial killer who's put to death and comes back because he felt wrong.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good
that's
one.
good.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, I'm into it. I can't wait
Yeah,
to watch
same.
this. I'm gonna
hopefully
read your
it'll be
books
out by
and watch your movies. This
January.
is great. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, if you ever want to just like tell me shit on the side, I'd be excited for that.
No problem.
I won't give anything away.
Okay.
And any ideas I have, you can take them.
Okay. Right. You heard it here. I have it on record.
Yeah, it's on recording.
Gosh damn.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You only have to pay me if you make more than 100 grand. So
Okay. Hey, that's a good
Just
deal.
playing.
That's a good deal.
I'll take $50. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm
Get you
playing.
gas for the weekend.
So again, revenant was more of the traditional word for zombie, and
Yeah.
zombie actually comes from the Haitian word Nzambi, spelled Nzambi.
There was, yes, that was my research uncovered as well. They now you're talking, Haiti has not been around that long as a culture, as a nation. So
Okay,
Mhm.
I didn't
was
realize
it
that. So
before that, because they, like you said, it's been around for 10,000 years. It was but it came from African tradition originally. So you're talking, I think, from the Congo area, if I'm not mistaken.
oh, okay.
And
Yeah, I just got into the Haitian one a bit more, but yeah, I didn't
the
realize
Haitian's
that
a
that
little
was
more
similar.
descriptive as to what's doing what and where and all that fun stuff. And it's funny when you get into voodoo / hoodoo, you're dealing with a modality of Christianity to a degree, which just blew me away when I figured that out. When I found that out, there was actually, they pray to the same saints as Christians and Catholics and stuff like that. And
Oh wow.
and but they have, then you kind of get into the subset of that, which is Santeria. Sorry, I could do this all day.
No, I'm into it. I love it.
I mean, that's when you start. Your blood sacrifice isn't goats, it isn't and larger animals, because especially in Haiti, you got to watch what you kill. Chickens,
right,
all day long. So Santeria was kind of the subset of that was a little more purely white magic, or bright, or light magic. Yeah. And that was, a couple of chickens here and there, big deal. Sacrifice to a god and you're good to go. And with the more traditional voodoo / hoodoo, you're dealing, well, it's funny. There's voodoo the religion and there's hoodoo the magic.
Right.
The heck?
So,
right.
It's almost one and the same, but at the same time there is a minor separation. It's
they're
like a
different,
really
and it's
faint
called
border.
It's called hoodoo.
The magic of voodoo is called hoodoo.
Oh my god.
And it tends to lean a little bit darker in its intent. This is where you get the zombie.
Really?
And
I would have thought voodoo was the more intense one, just based on how it sounds. Like,
well, you do have
oh
gosh, God, it was even in a James Bond film. That guy with the top hat. He's an immortal.
Names.
Baron something. Baron Samedi? I could be wrong about that.
I'm totally blanking on that.
I will look that up later. Or the audience out there, put in the comments.
And again, that's what's like so like fun about this, and like challenging, because it's like each one of these, like we could sit here and talk 2 hours for just one of these. We almost
are. We're at an hour and a half just.
We
haven't even cracked the top 3 of our monsters.
Exactly. Okay, many cultures have developed tales of this revenant, such as the predominant, as you said, Haitian and voodoo cults and practitioners. We also have the Draugr from Norse myth, which I think Noah can get into a bit more, but the Draugr actually, which obviously was, I will mention, famously portrayed in the game Skyrim, because I love that game. But they actually portrayed it well, because the Draugr, which means again walker, actually differs from your typical revenant zombie by displaying magical and supernatural powers,
And they're a
including
little more intelligent too, right? They're not just,
yeah. So
they're
they have
actually-
like intent.
They have everything that made them up comes back.
Right. And they even have shape shifting. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
In addition, I know you're gonna love the mention, is we have the Strigoi of Romanian lore. Also quite near the vampire, seeing as it shapeshifted and drank blood.
Yeah.
So which that's what I'm saying, like when you read these, like the vampire and the zombie share such a close origin, and the zombie was older. So I think like the empires really came from zombies.
It's entirely possible. They were making things up, and they're, I said, Bram Stoker really gave us the Western modern vampire.
So
go ahead.
The Chinese have the Jiangxi, which means stiff corpse.
Yep. They hop.
And yes, they hop. Yes.
No.
And they're also similar to vampires in ways as well.
Almost exactly, actually, but they hop. Do you know why they hop?
No, I did cover this at one point, but I didn't write it down, so no.
It's because when you bury people in China, back in the old days anyway, they used to tie their legs together, just as a matter of course. When they get up, they hop.
Wow.
They'd all be hopping.
That's hilarious.
They hop after you. Yeah. Here comes the vampire. Hop. And they don't go very fast, because they're as slow as zombies for sure. I mean, as more traditional zombies.
They fall over.
Hop.
In a weird way,
do it forever. They're never going to run out of steam. But you can take a break, go get a dinner, coffee, whatever, and say, "Oh yeah, what's his name's coming after us again? Okay, let's go."
It's almost more terrifying in a way.
It's like Pepe Le Pew, but evil.
Yeah,
because Pepe Le Pew always hopped along. He was very happy. Everyone else was scrambling to get away from him, and he always managed to catch up. I digress. Go ahead. Say that again.
I said, until there's a horde of them chasing after you, and it'd be like,
oh my god,
yeah, like
you could still go get dinner around the corner. It's like, man.
What if their shoes? What if their shoes come untied? Would they be able to run?
If they? Well, apparently they were just stuck that way because of some sort of rigor mortis. I don't know how the Chinese legend actually plays out completely.
Okay.
But somehow they always stayed in that form. They always had to hop around everywhere.
Right.
Or they skittered almost like that geisha shuffle, to give it I know that's Japanese.
Oh yeah.
But
it's so creepy, like to think of for some reason.
You're right. I'll hop after you. Don't make me hop after you.
Yeah.
I'll be down to down at the gun shop. Okay.
I'm just picturing like they're almost like these like little like undead rabbits that could kill you.
Yeah, human size.
Monty Python rises again. Okay, go ahead.
So something that I noticed that all of these have in common, as well, is the belief that certain people have a higher propensity or risk of becoming undead, such as those who are murdered, commit suicide, or any sort of unnatural cause of death. And the other aspect they have in common is, of course, rising at night to feed on the living. Also to note, I couldn't find anything that ever really specifies them eating brains until George Romero's 1968 Night of the Living Dead, except it wasn't even Romero. It
was his assistant director. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who picked up the thing.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say he kind of picked up the reins after the first movie, and when they said we need a sequel, and Romero said, "Nope, you get that one, and that's it."
So
And
it's interesting.
Go ahead.
No, I didn't realize you're done. My bad. Keep going.
Oh, I'm sorry. So his assistant director says, give me director, I'll do it. I bumped the mic. My apologies. Make me director, I'll do it. And I think in the third or fourth one, they needed an explanation. Someone said, why brains? Why the hell do they need brains? So they came up with this really convoluted need for serotonin. They starved for serotonin.
Oh my god.
God, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, really? Serotonin? I mean, okay, applause for looking up things in a medical book, but
yeah,
come on.
Living Dead are like of the Living Dead title. Anything with that went to his partner.
Yeah.
And then anything of the dead, Romero kept. Yeah. And so again, so like Romero is known to question why people even ask him, because he doesn't know. He's like, I don't know where the brains thing came from. And he'd be like, people ask me to write, like when I sign an autograph, they're like, write eat brains. And he's like, I don't even know why you want me to write that. Like, so
his partner came up with it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Wow.
So, where did that come from? The first trace of zombies eating brains actually can be traced to the 1985 The Return of the Living Dead.
Yep, that's the one.
Really?
Which was
wow.
Yeah. So that was directed by Dan O'Bannon.
Yep.
And
sure was.
Where zombies can be seen eating brains, and also possibly more popularized, of course, by The Simpsons. 1992, Treehouse of Horror, Dial Z for Zombie segment.
Yes. Great moment where a zombie goes after Homer, sniffs at him, brains. Nope, none there.
So
when I was doing haunting, I was a zombie. I did a haunted attraction. I still do, actually. I've been doing it for over years, decades, actually, 30 years almost. And I use that trick on people all the time. Brain. Nope. And move on.
That's hilarious.
It was a nice little slam. I wasn't intending to, but you're so stupid. I stopped doing it because people get razzed left, right, and center.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Go up to like the big buff dude and just be like, oh, there's nothing in there.
Moving
on. Yeah, so that's kind of where that got popularized. It's like a modern iteration of the zombie.
Very modern, yeah. But there was the reason I asked about brains initially is sorry about that. I knew the answer, but at the same time, it made me wonder, why did he choose brains? And I never got that answer. So, and I think he alluded to something else, like another horror or monster from past lore, for example, that did specifically go after brains, but there were it was some desert dwelling, like it was in the old Arabia area, old Egypt area, where there was a monster that did go specifically after brains. I think it was a worm of some sort.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that might be more based off like a real parasite or something.
Could be,
maybe,
could be. But apparently, this worm was gigantic, like some 8-foot thing to rear up, like a dune worm or something.
But it just eats your head.
Oh my god!
Chomps down on your head, and that's it.
Jeez.
And a bunch of headless corpses are laying around somewhere.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's like the purple worm from D&D.
Nice callback. Oh, that's awesome. I haven't played D&D in 1,000 years. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're big D&D players, so.
Oh, are you still
yeah.
playing? Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, we play it. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll have to jump in on your game one of these days.
Oh my God, I'd love to. Actually, I'm trying to work on a like where you're a paranormal team and then you go after Bigfoot kind of thing. I think that'd be really fun. So
Yeah.
definitely have to get you in on that.
That'd be fun.
Again, like the whole brains thing, like you said, like it was they gave the serotonin as like the reason, but there was because George Romero's like thing was like it's not about zombies, like they don't even matter. It's about like how are the humans reacting to them.
Exactly.
You know, but
Yeah,
of course we all want to know how does a zombie function. So
like the first question,
yeah.
It's like,
So yeah.
and in the first film, he never ever lets on to why they rise. At all. They just suddenly pop out of the ground.
Yep. So
And,
honorable mention of the first portrayal of zombies was in film was actually Victor Halperin's White Zombie, which was about a Haitian priest who becomes a zombie via magic potion.
Yes. The good old
that
magic
makes
potion.
sense.
Also the inspiration for Rob Zombie's White Zombie album.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Yeah, Rob Zombie's a huge film nut. I mean, more so than most people even know, even with his directing background.
Yeah. He's like the Tarantino of horror, basically.
Yeah, the good way to put it. Yeah,
for
sure. Good way to put it.
But yeah, so zombies in stories are either portrayed as magical curse, biological virus, which such as The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
The show and the video game The Last of Us, and Rockstar Game Company's Red Dead Redemption expansion Undead Nightmare. And each of those
for just a second.
Yeah, go for it.
Me, does The Last of Us have the fungus zombies, or am I thinking of something else?
Yes, and I can explain a bit about that too.
Yeah.
The fungus zombies were my favorite. It's like, oh, come on.
Well, this is what's actually great. So, you know, I actually find the Last of Us franchise to be the most interesting explanation.
Oh yeah, me too.
Of why they eat, right? Because that's why we're here, right? Like, why are we getting eaten by undead? And so again, like similar to the whole how the vampire virus would work. I love this because so essentially they used cordyceps, which is again is a type of fungus.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not just like they're not eating just to eat, they're eating to spread the cordyceps.
Yeah.
Which is to me a lot more satisfying answer.
It is a little more satisfying of an answer, but at the same time, the problem I have with a fungus is it envelops everything completely in reality versus adapting to a given bioform.
Yeah.
It'll just
so
yeah.
Interesting you say that because the cordyceps being a form of fungus, of course, this actually does exist in the real world. So there are 35 known Orpheocordyceps that affect the behavior of insects and possibly hundreds more yet to be discovered. So these particular cordyceps do exactly as The Last of Us Undead portray.
I stand corrected. That is spot on.
Yeah.
And which is where they get it from. So they infect the host, kill it, and then take over the motor functions to drive the host body, and then of course infect more of its own kind.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard of one. It was like an ant that had been taken over, and like you could see the fungus growing out of it.
Yeah.
And like I think it did like a suicide basically, and like jumped off a tree, or it basically killed itself in order to spread the spore.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, they'll infect ants and beetles and they'll drive them into their own colonies where it can spread. And so it's actually quite terrifying. However,
that is terrifying. I mean, based on that kind of reality, yeah.
Sure. So it really does exist.
That's amazing.
The only difference is that for us, we don't have to worry because our bodies are too warm for cordyceps to survive.
That makes sense.
So, unless we ever see a strain such as that is what's portrayed in The Last of Us, then
Fingers
we'd have a
crossed we don't.
problem. Yeah.
Right.
Because that would actually be a problem. So,
a little bit.
so, so it seems to me that like the concept of undead has much more to do with our fear and of our own mortality. Monsters, cryptids, they all seem to personify the most like negative or extreme aspects of our humanity. And zombies seem to be like at the core of this, as I like mentioned in the beginning. And the way I think of it is this: is like as our ancestors developed, they would have learned like fairly quickly that dead humans are a health hazard. So today we can explain this all through biology, but in the past, most people, only had magic or legend, to describe the happenings of the world around them. So it seems natural that building and retaining the horrific stories of the dead, returning to feed on the living, is actually a rather effective means of carrying on the knowledge to bury or burn the dead in order to protect the living from dysentery and disease.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And on that,
yeah.
there's a really interesting story in the Norse exactly about this with the Afterwalkers, like you mentioned earlier.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, so basically it's in the saga. It's called the Saga of the Sandbank Dwellers. And essentially, let's see, it's been a while since I've read through it, but I have quite a bit of notes on it. But essentially, it's this troublemaker who who gets his son to rob his neighbor, or who tries to get his son to rob his neighbor, and his son won't do it. And Thorolf goes back to his home very disappointed. So this is one of the tropes in kind of Norse zombie legend, is that when a father is extremely disappointed and then he dies in his home, that's one of the warning signs of like becoming a zombie.
Gotcha.
And so Thorolf goes back to his home disappointed, and he's sitting upright at the dinner table, and he dies with his eyes open. And this is like another kind of trope in the Norse, is that they are super, super stiff, and they turn hard, basically hard as stone and heavy as stone. So they're very hard to move, and they have their eyes open. And basically there's a certain way that his son has to get him out of the house to like prevent him from coming back, because he has all these warning signs, right, that he's going to become this afterwalker. So he basically has to like throw a bag on his head and like wrestle his dead corpse to the ground, and then he has to bust down a hole in his wall and drag him out the hole through the hole he just made, because you're not supposed to take him through the front door. So you have to make another hole to take him out, so they can't come back in the house.
Gotcha.
And so he essentially buries him, and but he still comes back as an afterwalker and starts like terrorizing the people who are living there. And one of the other things with the afterwalkers is they love to kill and eat cattle, which is really weird. That's like their thing, is they go into like cattle ranches and they terrorize, the cows and whatnot, and kill them and ride them. And
ride them? As in
ride them.
Get on.
Yeah.
Like before they kill them or after?
Probably before, I think. It doesn't
ride them to death and then eat them.
Yeah.
This gives like this is a whole new explanation to cattle mutilations.
Right.
Yeah,
it's an afterwalker. I knew it.
I don't really know why cattle specifically. I mean, I know it was a huge part of their culture, like raising cattle and doing all that. So I think maybe that had something to do with it. Just the fact it was such a big part that there would be stories of zombies that would go after their cattle, right? Because that is their livelihood.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of going on what Zoe was saying, is like within these stories of zombies, there are like they can explain how to deal with dead bodies and what to do if you encounter them, or like how it is with the Norse, at least with this one story, which is a pretty good example.
And they go through all the steps on how to deal with it, which I like.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
They make it very clear to follow. Like, this is what you do. And
It's kind of like,
it's a fun story, but it does go to show that they can encode some of that knowledge within the
although
story.
I imagine the whole like busting a hole into the back of your house is kind of like not I mean, they're in the winter, like the weather up there, like now
A
you got to
little
repair a
overkill.
hole and
And he still comes back to the house. Yeah, I think he kills his wife too.
Oh,
oh
geez.
shit.
Yeah, yeah, he takes her
Whoops,
with
sorry.
him.
I lost my earbud there.
Oh, you're good.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
That's a crazy. Thanks, man. That's awesome.
I guess I'll wrap up with zombies a little bit here
Sure.
with like basically like, my question is like, is there actually any validity to some of these legends that go beyond conventional or scientific explanation? Because it seems like science is still trying to catch up to the world of magic and the paranormal rather than the other way around. And maybe that's just my opinion. But I do question if there was, like you said, like even a truth once in history, like that the dead came to life. But
otherwise, why go through all this? I mean,
yeah,
lock them down. It's like, oh no, that dead person's not getting up.
right.
I mean,
So when regarding the Haitian voodoo or hoodoo, there is supposedly a brew that can make the living subject docile and obedient to command.
Yeah.
So this concoction is apparently from pufferfish,
Yep.
where they create a deadly neurotoxin known as tetrodotoxin.
Yeah.
And this is, to me, believable considering the effects of certain chemicals like
it's been proven.
Yeah, like
It's
the
been proven.
Never heard of that.
The actual brew, yeah, they've it's been proven.
Oh,
They've actually
okay.
seen it work.
But just it's terrifying. So you just
Yeah,
you
you
literally
lose
become
all
a
control.
zombie
It's like,
subject to
okay.
command.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. You'll be worked forever until you break on a given task. There was a story in the 1990s. It's not that long ago, 1990s, where a guy was give this brew. And
what's it called?
It's tetrodotoxin. It's from
it's
a
a derivative
pufferfish.
of it. It's made
At least
with
that's the toxin.
That's the toxin
Okay.
part of it. That's just part of the brew though.
Yeah, and
But
it's from Haitian, right?
It's
it's
a Haitian
That's
voodoo
interesting.
brew.
Okay.
And so this guy is given some, and he loses like 3 years.
What?
And when he's finally found and brought, he has to be told what to do at first, because they keep having to dose him with this stuff in order to keep him, in servitude.
Really?
But they finally bring him out of it, and he doesn't look like himself at all because he's lost all kinds of weight. He's practically a walking skeleton, and his hands are marred from all this hard work he was doing. I think he was dealing with like quarry work or mine work or something like that.
Oh.
And barehanded. That's rough. But yeah, so he gets, he starts coming back after, I think it took a day after they found him for things to even start to begin to ebb. And he finally recognized his wife, and that took a couple of days. Then his memory started flooding back. It's like, yeah, I went over to this hut over here. They gave me this drink. They said it was a traditional drink, and I dishonor them and their ancestors if I didn't drink it. That was a common ploy. And so I drank it, and that's the last thing I remember. That's like, wow, really? So yeah, this guy was apparently some millionaire or something. He was going to do some development down in Haiti or something like that, and he disappeared for 3 years, and all of his projects tanked. Yeah.
Wow.
All of his
Wow.
projects tanked, and they think maybe that was the reason. That was the motivation. They didn't want any of this development to happen, so they gave him the
They took him
brew.
out of the game. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Those
That's like
Haitians.
honestly like one of my worst fears, because like I've always like had sleep paralysis throughout my life.
Oh,
So it's like one of the worst like things is to just like be in your body and you can't
Mhm.
move.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, no.
I've experienced that
Oh
before.
my God. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
horrible.
yeah, along with this tetrodotoxin, you also have things like sodium pentothal, studies regarding the power of suggestion in general. So like these kind of things, as far as explanations behind like a true zombie. Similarly, we also have an accounted for like phenomenon called split brain syndrome. Have you heard of this?
Is that
Mm.
the severing of that interconnective tissue between the two halves of the brain? Or am I thinking of something
So
else?
it it can happen via a chemical induction, or like being induced with, I don't know if the induction is the right word, but induced with a certain chemical.
Mhm.
But it's also just like a syndrome that can occur in certain people.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure how, but essentially it's where the corpus callosum, which is the part of the brain responsible for allowing the two hemispheres to communicate,
Yeah.
becomes dysfunctional or like shut off altogether. So this leads to symptoms of epilepsy and other issues, which was another interesting thing. You mentioned epilepsy earlier.
Yeah. Mhm.
So the the two hemispheres of the brain will develop their own perspective and thought patterns independent of one another.
Oh, that's
Which,
got to be unnerving.
Yeah.
yeah,
What?
Oh
yeah,
man.
I can't even fathom that. Yeah.
yeah.
Having
So
two different thought patterns.
Oh
that's just
man.
like,
But right brain, I
yeah,
want to do this. No, left brain, we do this.
right. And it's almost like you're two people or something, which is also like they get into like those studies get into like,
Split personality
do
and stuff like
split
that.
personality, but also like do they have two forms of consciousness within the same
Mhm.
brain?
Oh
Yeah.
my.
Which I'm sure is impossible
Yeah.
to measure.
So
Wow.
but some studies have shown that there is still like some form of communication when the
Mhm.
corpus callosum is disabled.
Yeah.
But sightings of actual undead, like much like other legendary monsters, like seem to be unsubstantiated beyond anecdotal evidence. There are accounts of people having been buried alive while in that near death-like state, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then, basically being mispronounced as dead.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the other cases would be like drug abuse, and that allow you to make people display certain behavior, like that old not old, but the bath salts thing in
I was just gonna
Florida.
say bath salts, yeah.
Yeah.
The Florida case, yeah.
And then there was like another one I read on
Chewing
where
on
like
some
this,
dude's face. Holy crap.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my
So
god.
there was supposedly a kid who he supposedly like was clean in his toxicology report, but then they did like say he had a drug problem, so I don't know. But apparently like the kid just like went over to his neighbor's house and like murdered them and started eating their bodies and
Oh my
faces
Good
God.
times.
for no
Wow.
reason. So yeah, good
Hey,
sign.
it's Tuesday at 3:00. Let's go.
Yeah. Party
Do I
Eat some
time.
faces.
do I want Fruity Pebbles or Mr. and Mrs. Pebbles? So but yeah, it was anyways. Yeah, so which is kind of interesting because like I listen to a lot of podcasts and like a lot of different, I can read on different things, and like I've heard plenty of stories of like Sasquatch that I'm like, I believe the person telling the story, or like I've had my own paranormal experiences, but like I never hear anything about zombies, like an actual zombie. So
Yeah, that's so
No,
true.
that's a good point.
that's
Yeah.
why to me, like I'll just conclude with like it seems to be one, making the reason why zombies eat people is because it makes us remember to bury the dead so we don't get sick. And two, um, is just that like there are other states that are zombie-like that could allow somebody to behave, in a way that they eat a person or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah.
as far as like zombies go, it's like why? It's just like
Cool.
kind of like same with vampires, like depends on where you what you're reading.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. This has been part 1. You got to wait till October for part 2. That'll be a Halloween special with Noah and Zoe from Mind, Matter, and Mystery. So without further ado, everyone, thank you so much. And Zoe, Noah, thank you so much for being on the show with me tonight.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
My
thank
pleasure.
you
I'm
as
excited
well.
to be back. So yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a great time. And yeah, really happy to do it. So it's our first time coming on another podcast as our
Yeah.
podcast. So
Yeah.
it was very cool. And yeah,
Yeah,
thank
like-
you, Tim.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So without further ado, we'll say goodnight. And thank you for watching and listening. Have a good rest of the week, everyone. We'll see you next time on Paranormal Insight. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Well, this is the end of my regular season. This is my last episode for this season. I will have a Halloween special. There will likely be a Thanksgiving special or a November special, and of course, a winter holiday or Christmas special for sure. And then I'll be back in February, where I will start up my second season of Paranormal Insight. I want to thank you very much for all of your attention and kind words and following me and this wonderful adventure. And I am coming back for more, so I hope you will too. And we'll see you in October for the Halloween special. I will be guesting on a couple of podcasts between now and then, so look for me on other podcasts as well. And I want to say once again, thank you very much from the heart for all of your support. You have a great rest of the month, and we'll see you in October. Thank you for watching and listening. Please click the subscribe button and activate notifications for future episodes and other content. If you have a paranormal experience that you would like to discuss on the show, please email us at paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. That's paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram under paranormal.insight.podcast